No, I'm saying season 1. Holden.
Oh,
season
Carr's
2.
gonna be all about
Tench.
her. Ah.
Season 3. Carr.
Season 4. Greg.
No,
Oh,
Barney.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome. Deep under the ground level of the FBI, there lies a group of investigators researching the darkest secrets of the criminal mind. These are their stories. Based on the book of the same name, we are talking about Netflix's second season of Mindhunter. And this time we're doing it without Rino Romano, but he does send his love.
Yeah. That's Rino.
So
Yay.
he does want to come back, just so you all know. But yeah, let's get into this. Oh, one real quick. Corey is joining us from the interwebs.
I am.
You can see it up here. These little bars that are moving, that is him.
You're watching it on the YouTube.
Fun fact, I'm 107 years old,
Yeah.
and I hurt my back, so there you go.
Yep.
Are you like in the
Corey.
like laying down, like with a microphone, like above your?
147
years old.
I am propped up right now.
Oh, okay.
With a heating pad on my back.
Dana's
What?
propping you up.
Yeah, she's holding me up for the whole episode.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no
Her and
worries.
Sugar.
Nice. Okay, so that is Corey on the interwebs. I'm Josh,
I'm Caitlyn.
I'm
Ollie.
Tom.
And I'm Ali.
and this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. If you are new to what Patreon is, it is essentially an exclusive membership service
So
in which you
exclusive.
get fun stuff for supporting your favorite creators like Nerd On. So for as little as $1 to $5 a month, you can get early access to our episodes. You can get discounts on merch. You can get a Discord server that is hopping all the time from comic books.
Sports.
Yeah.
Pets.
Today I learned
Today I learned.
all sorts
I
of fun
found a lot
stuff
of things in there.
going
Is it,
on over
is
there.
it hopping or is it popping?
Both.
Both.
Is it
It's
hip
hopping
hop
and
popping
popping
to the rhythm?
Nice, Ali.
Yeah.
Bang,
Nice.
bang, boogie to the boogie to the boogie to the beat.
Yep. And it is nerdon.io/Patreon. This episode is also brought to you in part by our friends over at Comixology, the internet's #1 source for comics. But check it out, nerdon.io/Comixology.
Comixology.
And do know that a little of every purchase goes to keeping the lights on. And that is done. The business is done.
It is.
That
Shall we-
was an excellent start to our show.
Oh,
Yes.
Wow.
And excellent.
So, this is season 2 of a show that David Fincher has said he will have 5 seasons of. So this doesn't
Yes.
make it a complete work. So we're not going to guess that grump. We're
Oh.
not going to have a rating at the end.
Whoops.
We're just going to discuss
Oopsies.
because you
I
guys.
put up
Alan's
a
learning the show.
poll.
No,
Yeah.
it's funny. I think what was we did the boys with just the boys, and Corey and Caitlyn weren't on it, and we had the pleasure of talking about a show that wasn't finished. So we were like,
Yeah.
let's just not do a rating. But also, we did Stranger Things, so I don't know how you guys forgot.
We can
that.
give our feelings about it.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about it. Just
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
discussion like our show.
Just so it's like out there, everyone thought Ali was going to be the grump, though.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so it's out there.
Just so
fair.
you know.
All right, let's do
And
it.
everyone out there also knew that Corey would not be the grump, so that's also
That's a good
What?
point.
No.
It's a safe. It's a safe.
yeah,
bet.
that's right.
Who know-
Yeah.
What?
so.
David
Nah.
Fincher.
So let's get on with the rest of the show where we just discuss our favorite parts and all the other good stuff, the meat and potatoes, which we'll start with our brief synopsis.
Potatoes?
Potatoes.
Mhm.
Which we'll start with our brief synopsis and our production.
Those are the potatoes that only I can eat because I'm
Do
on
we not
keto.
do first impressions before that?
You know, we do, Josh. We actually do. And you know what? Also, some people call it
Initial reactions?
first impressions and initial reaction.
Okay.
Oh, Tom's turning into me now that I'm not there.
No. Corey goes into initial reactions before the entire show starts.
I see how it is.
That's fair.
But we skipped it, so everything shifts one. So
Yeah,
really,
so that's
we're kind of
messed up.
even.
So Josh, you prompted. Let's start.
Okay. I was really, really anticipating this season. I loved Mindhunter season 1. I just really dug it. And this one, I think it was a departure from what the first season was. And I dug it a lot. I did like the departure.
Mhm.
So
It's bigger.
it's bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger scale.
Yeah.
Applied sciences.
Yeah. So I dug it.
Uh,
Those are
You
my
binged
first-
it. I remember texting you, like, binged it like a ton of episodes, like the first night.
Yeah, because we were one more. Yeah,
Yeah.
just one more.
Hooks you in.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done that with every bingeable show.
Yeah.
When you can, I mean,
Yeah.
when it
That's what it's
automatically
there
switches
for,
to the
Tom.
next episode.
Corey,
You
how
have
about
4 seconds.
your response and initial reactions and stuff?
But much like Josh, I was hooked from the first season. I'm a big fan of any show that has a cinematic appeal or look to it or vibe.
Mhm.
So going in with David Fincher, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
I think the people. This is the Empire, right? This is Empire Strikes Back. We know the characters, we understand them. Now we get to play within those bounds, and we get to throw things at these characters and see how they react. So I was like Josh, very excited to get into it, and I think my wife and I binged it within a week, the entire show. So I loved it. I came out the other side loving it. I do have a few hiccups with it all, but nothing I don't think that really affects much. But we'll get into that later.
But you also didn't watch a lot of House of Cards.
No,
That had David Fincher as the showrunner.
Oh,
I understand.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Oh, that makes sense now.
it was my
I
favorite
started
show.
watching House
Yeah,
of
same.
Cards when some shit hit the fan, and then I felt
Ah.
weird about watching House of Cards.
Oh, fair.
Fair
I
enough.
only started
Fair
watching
enough.
it once the shit hits the fan. I've been campaigning for years trying to get him to watch the show.
Anywho,
Yeah.
Caitlyn, how about you?
so I blazed through season 1, and
Sax on deck like you're blazing up? Yes.
Don't.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm just moving past that. Season 2 was like this beautiful shift in the only logical way it could have gone from season 1.
Yeah.
And everything was so well executed. The way you feel about everybody changes a lot. But the core of who they are doesn't leave. Like everything was just very beautifully done.
Yeah.
Me and that
It's
thread.
pretty.
It's very seamless.
Hey.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Coming back to the
Seamless.
scenes.
What's the seam?
So she didn't like the show. Go ahead, Ollie.
What?
You didn't say it.
I like the show.
Don't. Well, too late. Ollie, your turn.
Yeah, I was also a huge fan of the first season. It was really cool to just see them get into the mind of like serial killers and see. It's almost like kind of almost gives you goosebumps when they first like coin the word serial killer, and you're like, oh, they're like this. It's happening. It's all happening.
It's
There
happening.
it is.
So season 1 was really great. I mean, obviously, I don't talk about like how amazing the photography is, but like the acting's actually really good. I really like the cast.
Cinematography.
Yeah, either or both.
Photography and cinematography.
Both.
Both.
But this season, yeah, it was a departure at first. Like I was excited, and like I saw where it was going, and I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna have like whatever they want, and then it kind of hits you from the side almost of like this Atlanta case. We'll talk about spoilers, whatever. And that was like a really interesting
We
turn.
will
So
talk about spoilers, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you
But-
haven't seen this, there are spoilers.
I just
'cause
said a
we're
city
gonna talk
name.
about all of it.
Doesn't.
As
but-
you heard from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see like the natural progression, and there's a lot of like natural progression things that happen in this that you get glimpses of, which I ate up. So yeah, I had a really, really good time watching it.
You're like crinkling this paper. I'm going to move this out of the way. But for me, I had a very interesting experience with it because I think I was probably the last one of us to finish it because world and life and shit. But I loved the first season, and as much as I loved House of Cards, the directing and the performance, yada yada, probably all stuff I said in the first time we talked about Mindhunter. Mindhunter is definitely like the most Fincher.
Oh yeah,
You could
yeah.
feel like if there's one show to talk about that he could have been doing is this.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting actually when I was writing the copy for it because actually Guest at Grump, First Impressions, all this good stuff when we had Rino Romano was before we had this formalized
Oh.
structure of our
Yeah.
show. So I didn't have to do like so much homework on like the production and all that good stuff when we had Reno on. But I did for this time when we're talking about season 2. And tackling that with a guest appearance or not would have been an interesting thing. But with this season, I like how it takes place right after season 1. A lot of the consequences and relationships you take from the first one drive the first half of the season. And then it kind of like lets it go into like a zero gravity feel where it's like now they're just going to grow in whatever ways that the characters allow them to grow, which is
Yeah.
kind of the beauty that TV does. And it's really interesting to hear how David Fincher has evolved in such a way where he finds that he likes TV a lot better sometimes, just with when you're working with different characters versus
Yeah.
like just telling one
You
story.
get to spend more time with them.
Yeah. It's interesting to know like which directors directed what, which writers wrote what episodes. And I kind of looked really close to those points because you can kind of tell who's like, I'm going to try to be Fincher versus like, this is what Fincher set up and I'm just going to take my own tone with it.
Right.
Because there are some of the things that are lost throughout the season that Fincher would have done that other people didn't do, which is one way or the other. But other than that, I really loved the fact that this became Tench's season.
Yeah.
This is
Mhm.
Holt
Big time.
McCallany's season because the last season we got to see a lot of Holden Ford,
Yeah.
Jonathan Groff's character, and this season was much more about like the actual struggle when you have human relationships and what does the Bureau and research and sciences, what does that do to a family?
Yeah.
So that's me.
Nice.
There you go.
So now going back to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Let's do some brief synopsis and then the production. So the brief synopsis first. Corey, please help me out because
Sure.
I know you'll get mad if I don't say
No.
certain things. You keep hitting me every night.
I don't get that mad. Just physical.
you get-
Physical.
You'll
I'm
dress up.
gonna get physical.
You'll dress up in women's clothes and then beat me. And we
Wow.
start out right after the events of season
BTK.
1, where Holden Ford is having a panic attack. He wakes up a few days later, and Tench and as well as Carr, Dr. Carr, Wendy Carr, are being told that there's going to be a new director or governing director for their department. And this guy's name is Gunn. And he is pretty much like all in full in support for them. And he's like, hey, where's Ford? And Tench can only say like, hey, I gave him like time off because he doesn't know where he is. And he doesn't know that Ford went to go see Kemper. And Kemper is the one that started this panic attack. He gets a call from Ford saying like, hey, I'm here. So Tench picks him up. And then they discuss that what he had was a stress-induced panic attack. And it's going to just follow him throughout. You never know what's going to happen, but you should start taking Valium. So they go back to their base of operation. They find out that they're going to get a upgrade because they want a bigger basement underneath a bigger floor in the FBI. And there's tension brewing because one of the other federal agents who was researching with them sent in a tape that kind of started
Outed them.
Started putting their operation in jeopardy.
Yeah,
And,
work at risk. Yeah.
we end up finding out that through a retirement party of the prior director of their department is actually becoming the fall guy. And he had to be like, I had to take collateral damage, and this is a forced retirement, which causes one of Holden's
Panic attacks.
We're also seeing that Wendy Carr is starting to get lovey-dovey eyes with this bartender that Tench, that Holden took her to. But now we're starting to hear that Gunn, the new department head, is saying like Tench and Carr have to be like the babysitters for Holden.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, he's great, he's brilliant, but we need to make
off the rails.
he runs off the rails. We need to make sure that this bleeding edge science and research can do its job and do its work. And we can't we have to let him be inspired, but make sure it's focused. So there's tension all around. There's tension within each other. They can't trust each other. But in a great way, Holden kind of disseminates the fact that like we can trust each other and we just have to be better about going forward in this. So normal investigations ensues. One of the big
Yeah.
That's fair.
one of the great carrots on the stick for Holden is that Gunn says, I can get you Manson, and you're going to talk to Manson. So audience viewers are like, oh, they're going to get a chance to see
Even
who
though he
Manson.
doesn't fit the bill.
Yeah. So later on, they start going into more the different types of killers. We actually end up seeing a little bit more of the ADT serviceman. So every episode opens up afterwards with different development of this person who is going to become the BTK. But also they're investigating copycats of other killers who are doing signs. So they're understanding like, hey, we need to start putting categories for different people. Fast forwarding a little bit to the halfway point of the season, Holden gets put into Atlanta, and he meets Barney, which is actually Tench's old partner, and they start working, certain cases to talk to different criminal inmates. And Barney's the one that makes breakthroughs here and there, which is kind of great. But Holden gets bamboozled to go into this like support group meeting where they're talking about their children who are missing, and that leads him being involved, and then later on getting the FBI involved. And now a routine research interview is becoming this world high profile
Like
case.
investigation, yeah.
All the while, Tench at home, there's problems. His wife Nance, who's a realtor, they both find out that their son was involved in the murder of a toddler, and the toddler was bound to a cross because Brian, their adopted child, thought it could bring back the child back to life. And Tench, later on, this starts weighing on him because two things happen. Nance starts losing faith that, like, okay, I'm okay with it because it's not my child. Because it's an adopted child,
Didn't
nothing
come
came
from
from
me.
me. And also Tench is getting worried.
Damien.
Yeah. Tench is getting worried because is this inherent genetic who this child is, or was it something that I've done? Which I'm assuming every parent at home always worries about that. It's like, is it something that I've done? Is it something that I could have done better? So there has to do the counseling and behavioral checkups that happen every Friday. And so Tench, in between going back and forth between Atlanta and where he works, he has to fly going back and forth. So his life is like hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also balancing responsibility of having to watch him.
Yes, because he's the head of his team. He's the leader of the unit. And Wendy is having struggles trying to find love and intimacy because before, when she was just a doctor, or when she was just a professor, she was able to be an out lesbian. But having this relationship with a bartender in a federal bureau is tough, and she wants to remain in control. So we start seeing the way that she can't really
Be herself.
or find intimacy that she likes on her accord. Like she wants to have it her way, and it's on her terms, and it's hard for her to kind of come to terms with that. Later on, fast forwarding a little bit more, months and weeks go on. Political strife as well as social uproar in the communities of Atlanta go on, and Holden thinks like, hey, it's a black male from the 20s and 30s, and that's all he really has. Like, this is what fits the bill, because the only person that could have kidnapped these kids had to been black. If it was a white guy, it would have stuck out. And he makes a bunch of promises that he can't really make, and they work really hard to try to do these stakeouts on their bridge. They end up arresting somebody, and there's not a lot of promise with them. First, they did that with a plumber, and that didn't work out because he was just choking the chicken in the woods.
I haven't heard that term in a really long
Choking
time.
the chicken. And then they come across a gentleman, a man named Wayne, and this man fits the bill, and he's very confident. He's very showy, and a lot of the themes from the beginning is that like murderers often react to their own publicity, and they want to maintain control. And so they start seeing that Wayne is very much in that same sense where he's responding to everything that happens.
Yeah.
The show of it all.
The show of it all. And the sad matter of fact is that they still can't pin at him. They can't pin one murder on him.
They've only pinned 2.
Yeah.
2.
Even
Out of
though
28.
5 came back to match the same dog
Yeah.
hair, and I think
They reopened it this
8
year.
came back for the fiber.
Wait,
Yeah.
they reopened it this year, like for real?
This year.
In real life.
In
Yeah.
March.
Yeah.
When did the show come out?
Just like a month ago?
last
Oh,
month.
okay. Wow.
So
Timing.
that kind of comes to him because the police stopped him because they heard a water splash over a bridge that they've been staking out for 5 weeks, and they stopped him. He had rope and he had dog hairs, and he would answer all the questions, but he was really quick to move things up. They do the normal procedure of like asking neighbors and asking people around him, and it pointed to him. And it wasn't actually until Tench, who actually had to do a retreat with the FBI director and get good relationships, because that's kind of the tough thing being the leader. He has to do the admin,
The
political
schmoozing.
Gotta be the
schmoozing stuff.
face too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and tell the good war stories. But good guy Gunn, who ended up saying like, hey, the defense jury or justice made a deal and said like, hey, Atlanta police can arrest him and we'll pin him on the 2 murders. So in a weird way, at the end of the season, we get the win where we get the murderer in jail, arrested, convicted, but not for the crimes that Holden believes
the
that he can
kids.
be accounted for. And they still have 0 conviction rate for any of the children that were missing and murdered and dismembered. So the mothers are still unhappy, and that kind of like leads the cautionary tale of like, this is kind of like the truth of like, Atlanta and like how the politics work and like how the system is kind of like ass backwards because they're getting in their own way and like you're stuck by jurisdictions and like politics as well as concerts that happen. Just like things just don't work. And even if the FBI try to help, like the show did a really good job of not saying that the FBI was in charge of everything. And it ends with Tench coming home to a empty house because Nance wanted to move away. And
With the one thing she said she wanted to leave behind in like episode 4.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Damn
couch.
couch.
Yeah.
Wendy, who has broken up with her then new girlfriend, Kay. And then Holden, who's back in his apartment, washing his hands and also seeing on the news that how the conviction happened. And then
And washing the blood off his
shirt. sleeve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just like in
Sleeve.
Off
episode
his
one,
cuff.
just like episode 1 of season 1.
One.
Mhm.
And we get a black screen that talks about the case that Josh mentioned in 2019. There still hasn't been any type of conviction,
And he still maintains his innocence.
Yep.
He says that
Yeah.
he's innocent.
and we get the final scene with the ADT serviceman who is in a hotel who's been trying to repress his urges, his sexual urges, and his wife. That no name. There's no name to him and no name to the wife, but we could see that there's sexual deviancy or that like she has books on how to like self-help and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it goes to the final form of the pupa to the great moth that it is of him in a hotel wearing women's clothes and putting a mask and choking himself on a doorknob, probably going to pleasure himself, and it ends.
Mm. Yeah.
That was like, what, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
And
Executive
forgive
producer
me,
Dick Wolf.
the Holden's girlfriend. When did that end? I don't remember. Was that in the
Season
season?
one.
Season
Yeah,
one.
season one.
I don't know why, but that feels
It was on
much longer.
It was on a porch. And she,
Yeah. She was drinking and
He was
crying and be
pretty
like, "Is that what
unemotional
I'm
about it.
doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that felt
Yeah.
a little more recent for whatever reason. But it makes sense because season 2 is about him kind of like devolving into
Well, it's like without any social ties, we see where he goes.
right.
Let's get into the production, and then we can actually have the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. So this is studio is Netflix. Showrunner is created by Joe Penhall, executive producer David Fincher and Charlize Theron. Writers based on Mindhunter inside the FBI's elite serial crime unit. Written by Joe Penhall, Jennifer Haley, Courtney Miles, Liz Hanna, and Joshua Donen.
Mm.
Joe wrote most of the season 1, but then the later on staff writers did all the other ones that Ollie mentioned.
Cast is Jonathan Groff, who has been in Taking Woodstock, Looking, and Frozen.
And
Hamilton,
and
baby.
Hamilton. Holt McCallany, Fight Club, Alien 3, and Lights Out. Anna Torv, shout out. Heavenly Sword, Fringe, and The Daughter. Sonny Valenci, The Post, Office Christmas Party, The Conway Curve, Stacy Roca, Things to Do Before You're 30, Waking the Dead, The Office, Zachary Ross Scott. This is his first show, so he doesn't have any other credits. Albert Jones, who has done Salt, American Gangster, Bourne Ultimatum. Lauren Glazier, who's done Gone Girl, Grace and Frankie, and the upcoming C. Michael Saravis, who's done Cirque du Freak, Vampire Assistant, and The Mexican, and also the Fame TV show. Joe Tuttle, who is in As the World Turns, The Blacklist, and Forever. Release date August 16th, 2019. We are in season 2. It is 9 episodes, average about an hour, 54 minutes.
Unlisted budget.
Unlisted, no budget. And
Netflix,
the Rotten Tomatoes
hiding your
score
numbers.
is 97 for critics and 95 for audience.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
Wow.
There you
Yeah,
go.
That's,
Pretty high.
that's not bad for a show.
Like the thing with critics, you usually think like the audience score is going to be a little bit lower, or anything
Yeah.
like that, or the other way around. But it's like they're both pretty close.
Yeah.
Just a real quick correction. Zachary's name is Zachary Scott Ross.
Ah,
There you go.
I'm Six Celtic sometimes.
Oh.
Six Celtic.
I'm Six Celtic. Yeah. So that was a crazy thing that I saw was that Zachary Scott Ross. Yeah, this is his first show, is the son. Is
Yeah.
David, and I was like, oh.
He looks so familiar, though.
I mean, he could be in the reboot for We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, now we're done with all that. We can get into the actual show and talk about our favorite parts and discuss.
Potatoes.
Yeah, the show, the meat, the fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how dinner works.
Oh, I mean, if you're vegan,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
it's
that's
the
like the
actual,
whole thing.
It's the actual thing.
That is it.
So favorite parts. Corey, you want to start?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. I'm just very excited.
You're really
about this.
excited. I can tell.
I mean, like Tom said, this is very much a Tench season. And I'm a huge Holt fan, big David Fincher fan, and he's one of Fincher's guys. So he's been in a lot of his works, including my favorite movie, Fight Club. So being able to watch him kind of stretch into this role and really play within the character was fascinating to me. Like having to, he's just such a good guy, and having to make everyone happy at the cost of his own happiness, and not really complaining about it ever. You just feel for that character. So anytime we followed him, I was kind of on the edge of my seat, watching him fly back and forth from Atlanta, trying to do his job there, trying to do his job as a husband and be home for these, court mandated meetings, and being honest and open with the, random stop bys, and trying to make his wife happy, and also the FBI commissioner happy. It was just like, it was a really, really well written web.
One of my favorite details with him was the just the fact that he's like always stress eating, or what you kind of perceive as what I would imagine is what he's doing is stress eating, because he's like,
even when he hands him the
any
fries,
opportunity,
he's like,
putting in like six sugars into his like coffee.
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Holden's giving like the weird look, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And that tension between him and Holden, even though they're good friends and to a degree, like the whole time you want him to tell Holden what's going on at home, because Holden will understand, and you're just like, but why he won't tell him? Because he's too proud, and he's trying to like,
but also
keep Holden focused.
He doesn't want to set off for it as well.
Yeah,
That's
right.
true.
He's walking a tightrope.
Because he has to be called, as I like to call it, toes.
Yeah.
The tower of emotional stability.
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I would be remiss as well if we didn't talk about the Manson interview. And
Oh,
I'd like to open
yes.
that scene up to everyone. Of course, the same actor from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Yeah.
who got cast in this first, I believe, if I
Wow.
remember correctly. And then, did both auditions thinking he wouldn't get either, and then got both, which is
Wow.
unheard of.
I love that.
It's pretty
But,
pretty interesting too.
I hope he's nominated for something, because he drove that scene.
Oh yeah.
My favorite part of that scene is when he stands up and then the camera jolts up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. Okay. And that's what time I was like, okay, this director is trying to do the Fincher thing. I seen you.
Yeah.
I seen you. And it's
Yeah,
like,
was it?
and,
Fincher did the first three.
yeah, but the thing is like, and we talked about it on Directors or Us, go listen to the episode now, is that David Fincher likes to, capture emotion and likes to track it.
Yeah.
And like, if a character moves, you move. And with this, it's such a dramatic thing, because Fincher likes to do like, he could do a long wide shot that someone's running through a forest, but then if it's a wide angle close up and it's a character just like slowly moving their head, like he'll capture that micro transaction happening. But then with this such a giant like explosive behavior, it's like, Jesus, like that's how you should feel in the moment, because it's like these two characters have to remain composed. And like, again, you had that ticking time bomb of like, Ford of like, is he going to have another attack?
Yeah.
And you're like worried the entire time, but it's like, we're here. Like he has to maintain, he has to control it. This is like his, his golden pony that like he'd been wanting, his great white buffalo, you know what I'm saying? His Moby Dick.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's the casting, period of the actual
any of the
serial killers. It's incredible to go back and just kind of explore all of them, and
You can watch the real interviews as
Yeah.
well. Of course, they have direct quotes, and some of them are written and fabricated to fit the scene a little better. But a lot of them use direct quotes from those interviews, which is pretty fascinating.
yeah.
Wow.
Especially Kemper. I mean, that's a match for match. If you listen, someone did a video edit where they blend the two together, and it's unreal.
Oh.
But Tom, I'm glad you brought that up. My last little bit here is just the attention to detail with the camera movements. There's one that sticks out to me specifically, and it's when Tench is on the phone with his wife, I believe at an FBI event, and she hangs up on him without saying I love you. And there's this moment where he's slouched and he has to put on a face and go be friendly and tell stories again. And he stands up straight for a moment, and that camera follows him maybe, 2 inches. But it gives you the exact idea of that feeling of taking that deep breath and going, okay, I'm going to go back and be the life of the party and save Ford from telling all these terrible science stories.
Yeah.
But for me, I probably watched it probably 2 or 3 times, because it's such a little minute detail, but in that moment, you're in his shoes.
Yeah.
So those are a few of mine.
Any more from the Manson scene?
I mean, I just love like him like sitting on the chair and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
He sits higher than
and
them.
like so he sits higher than them.
He did that in the real interview too. He asked for a bar stool.
There you
because he's a
go.
little man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with the acting of that. It's definitely a highlight of this season. I think is that interview. It just really gets to both of them, and it's really interesting to see him like turn
Yeah.
and start to like lash out back, like lose his composure at towards the end of it.
Tench?
Yeah, Tench.
Yeah,
and then so that was interesting to see.
The thing I really liked is that this season with Holden, you see him actually fail to get a lot of information from people. Like
Mhm.
before, he was like this magic key that
All-star.
just like got
He did
whatever
everything right.
whatever the hell he wanted. He just got information from like murderers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with Manson, it was kind of like to me like the epitome of like this is the guy you want, and you can't really learn anything from
You
him.
can't touch him.
Yeah.
You can't grasp like. So what were you thinking? How are you feeling? Was this, like, how was your childhood? And he just kind of like, pontificates about how, like, this
That $2 word.
these are your children. I'm taking them in and I'm doing what you guys should have done. I let them be who they are. Like, just deflecting any type of responsibility. So it just feels like, it's like, I'm in here wrongly accused. And Tench, who just like knows the dirty side of, he's the guy who has been in the field, who knows to work every case and look up every lead, who's like the hard boiled detective, which I love that character type.
Yeah.
And like you see him just break, which actually very
Yeah.
Well, I
reminiscent
think
of the
Had
Dark
enough
Knight.
of this shit.
I think that's one of the first times you start to see him worry about like his son.
Yeah.
And like essentially he doesn't want to believe that this is something that isn't influenced upon. Like he doesn't want to think that it's
That
just
it might
how
be
he is.
intrinsically part of
Right.
Like what
Who
his
you
like
are.
what his job is. Like he's seeing signs.
Yeah. Like
You know,
Manson,
even the bedwetting is
Right.
a
Yeah.
sign.
like Mike Manson must
My
have
kid can never
taken
be
these
this.
kids and must have influenced them because
Yeah.
there's no way that a normal person is
Would just
capable
do
of that.
that.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of why he breaks
Yeah.
a little bit from there and that
absolutely.
frustration.
His life is
Well-
very it's starting to blur at the edges, so to speak, and it's
Yeah.
starting to become very like, oh.
I mean, it's funny because he lies a little bit to the social worker. He's like, have you ever brought your work home? It's like, you have.
Oh.
And then the
And
kids
Brian saw it.
He
Yeah.
saw the stuff.
and
But-
kept it under his bed.
Yeah, and when Manson says like, no, these are like these children, like your kids, and then that's like what
Oh.
breaks him.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
he's like
I remember
literally
that.
targeting him. It's like, oh my, he doesn't understand
My
the way.
kid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's like
You son
man,
of a bitch.
and that's the cool thing is that Manson knows how to press buttons as well as Ford does,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's like it's a match.
Psychological warfare.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
which is it's my shit
Well,
all
the,
day.
So
he
good.
asks for his glasses and then tells everyone that
That he stole
That
them
he
from
stole
the
them.
FBI.
is just exactly what all you really need to know about the character,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
and you understand him at a pretty
Yeah.
fundamental
It
level.
kind of wrapped up that scene in a nice little bow.
Yeah.
He creates his own reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the first time. I mean, like you said, it's him not getting information, but it's also him learning that a lot of these killers aren't exactly the same.
There's not
Uh,
there's not so much of a science.
There's
Well,
not. You're right. There's still they. You need that realization that like, oh yeah, that's right. We haven't cracked it. We're still coming up with this stuff. We're still figuring it out. We're still learning.
But
Well,
I can't
I-
resist the attention.
I'd like to also bring up one of my favorite parts because it has to do with this. They have they're going to do an interview and they're like, well, Ed Kemper's here. We might as well go talk to
Oh,
him.
right. Yeah.
And
That's when they're doing the
seriously-
Manson one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what he says something along the lines of, it seems the things that you guys know are based on serial killers that you've caught.
That you've caught.
And then there's just
Yeah.
this knowing look
Mm.
and he's just tapping his leg. And it's like,
Yeah.
shit, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, damn. Because there's
That's
there might
There's
be
a
a whole
seed.
part
That's
of
like
their
the
profiling
most-
that's
They
there
don't
could be
know.
more.
that's actually the most terrifying line
Yeah.
of that show for sure.
Super terrifying.
Well,
Like
it's
all of our information only functions off of what we know based on like who we've caught and stopped.
to keep thinking you have the bad monsters, imagine the bad monsters that you can't catch.
to quote Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's like, yeah, it's the observable world. It's the observable science. Like this is what we know based on what we've seen.
Right.
Versus, and like that begs the question of like, are you really afraid of the things you don't know? And it's like we can't know what we can't know.
Right.
And it's like, but how
Exactly.
much do we want to delve into that?
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh God.
Don't
Well,
burden yourself with the secrets of
and-
scary people.
As a direct juxtaposition to that, it was really I guess kind of a favorite part of just showing Holden's true colors, of interviewing the murderers in Georgia, where he's completely disinterested so quickly, and watching him realizing that he's like, if it's not a sort of fight, like a mental fight with the serial killer, then he's really not interested.
Yeah, I think with the guy with the Reese's peanut butter cups.
Reese's peanut butter cups and the other guy too.
So Corey.
It's
Yes,
Corey.
I
It's
know.
Corey.
It's not Reese's peanut butter cups, by the way.
But they're kind of
they're
like it.
Mars. Or
No, they're
something.
marshmallow-filled chocolates.
Oh,
more
that's
like
why I
said-
Charleston Chew.
That's why I
Yeah.
said cream and the whatever. I was like, is that?
You were close.
It looked like it. And I was like, for some reason, I imprinted like, this is Corey and these are Reese's peanut butter cups. And that's how
Corey's not a murderer.
you don't
Yeah.
know that.
Well,
You don't know that.
Yet.
Let's not.
Let's
not.
Let's not play with that. But no, it's like that kind of stuff. To me, I don't think it's like his true colors of like he's disinterested, but like the fact that it's not correlating to a science that you can be tracked.
Right.
And it's like, if it doesn't match the science, or if there's no science to be built on it, like it doesn't matter.
It's useless to him.
It's like it's the not was it outlier? It's the outlier
Yeah.
of information. So it's like, this doesn't help. This doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And like I find myself in that sense in those places sometimes, but also it leads you to be like, he thinks so much like a killer in some ways, where it's like a little
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he definitely got creepy this season.
For sure.
It's wonderful the juxtaposition and parallels that he has with these serial killers, and it's like weird commentary on a fine line between the two. Like,
Very
this is a guy
much.
who's here to hunt and stop serial killers, and yet he still has a lot of characteristics. He's a little sociopathic.
Mhm.
He's a little detached from reality at times.
Mm-hmm.
But where his focus isn't on, killing people, it's on learning science,
Like,
which is kind of interesting.
He can't be social during
Yeah.
the little dinner thing that Gunn like invited them over. Like
Yeah.
Tench is causing up a laugh storm. Him can't do anything.
Yeah, and that's another one of those signs that they have social disorders. in
I
a
feel
sense.
like in that social setting, it was less about him not being able to be social, because he is social, but he focuses on the like factual information,
Mhm.
which no
Yeah.
one is interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he
Tench
doesn't know how to read
focuses
his
on
audience.
right, but he's
He's on
I
the
guess
fun
that's,
that's why he
stories.
better.
gravitates to his girlfriend in season 1. Is she's everything he's not.
Right. But yeah, I don't think it's that he's not social. It's just he only cares about the information he cares about, and that's not what everybody else cares about.
I mean, to another point, another favorite aspect of the show is seeing Wendy Carr having a relationship.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, it's like also that
They touched on it in season 1.
yeah, but also that fact of like she also doesn't like the relationship because she likes to know everything as much as she can. And
Mhm.
left and right, she's getting like slept on by everybody. It's like, you're just the
Yeah.
research person. You can't go do field interviews. Like,
Even though she's the one actually getting information out, and what's his name is getting
yeah,
nothing.
but also
Freaking out at
she's
every turn.
she's doing the
Greg.
interviews. Yeah, she's doing the interviews
Silly
and
Greg.
she's getting the analysis done. So she's actually coming upon like, hey, like these pools that we're putting these people in don't fit. Like
Yeah.
we need to recalibrate and keep doing this research that we're supposed to be doing instead of actually doing these, big pop cases. But like her relationship with Kay, it's like one of my favorite lines in that was like, you want honesty, you're not truly enlightened, and you get relationship advice out of a magazine. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's some shit
Damn.
right there.
Yeah.
Shit.
And I'm like, that's so true from nowadays. Like, and again, you can't talk up, like, you don't make a period piece and don't talk about real life now.
Oh yeah.
And what's the last thing she throws away?
A magazine. And like, to me, I loved that. I was just like, this is like, I never
I
watched.
can't wait for what she does in season 3.
Oh my gosh.
I think honestly,
So
she
ready.
will be the new, speculative. I think she'll be the new leader of
Holden.
the unit. Like Tench will probably like have to take
Have
a
to
lead.
step down.
I think
a
it
little
was
bit.
Yeah.
Holden, Tench, and then it'll be Carr.
I think it'll be Carr, then Holden.
No. I'm saying season 1. Holden.
Oh,
season
Carr's
2.
gonna be all about
Tench.
her. Ah.
Season 3. Carr.
Season 4, Greg.
No,
Oh,
Barney.
no.
Oh, I
Barney.
fucking loved Barney.
Barney.
Barney's
I'd
such
be
a
okay
dope.
with that.
My favorite main addition to the show
Yeah.
is Barney.
He
He came through in every single moment.
And Greg disappointed
single
at
one.
every single turn.
Yeah. Well, also the fascinating thing about the show is it leaves you questioning yourself, right? So it makes you, it's told in such a way where you believe that Holden has this guy to a T, right? You're like, oh, he was right, African American, mid-20s, that kind of thing. But then at the very end, what does Barney bring up? 3 files for people who fit the description, went into the house that they pointed out at the very beginning, and is a white old guy. And you're like, okay, so
Shit.
was I wrong? Was I wrong for blindly believing Holden? Like, is that where the issue comes in? Like, I loved that they asked that question at the end.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also an interesting turn for the season because, like, for season 1, it was very just like it was a little freak of the week, even though you could binge the whole thing. But it was like every episode, new killer, new way to think how killers think.
I've seen
Right.
it
Yeah.
explained as like season 1 is episodic, whereas season 2 is more serial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like season 2, and like to Caitlin's point, like it just escalated.
Very
and
much.
like and Ollie said it had a natural progression where like this is like take what you learned and then try to use it on the field.
Yeah.
And was like to me it was a jarring change, and we'll talk about that later, but like how it just became this Atlanta case. And it was like how to use these things that they learned from season 1 and half of season 2 to put in the end. And the thing that I loved about that though was like how it stopped becoming this like deep, and I'm just going to use the word because Fincher likes the word, this deep perverse infatuation with the criminal mind into this actual macroscopic look at how society responds to no answers. How do like the politics, and it's what's known as like politically true. And that if you say something long enough, it becomes true. And if like the Klan was the ones that are killing them, the Klan is the ones that killed them. Because in politics, that's what people are getting bought on, and that's what the mayor needs to say, and that's what the commissioner needs to say. Because no one's going to accept the fact that it could have been like another black
Anybody.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm also very intrigued with BTK and how they're going to do that
That's-
whole thing.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
very interesting case because he wasn't caught
He
until
wasn't caught until
2005.
2000.
I have a
Oh.
question. They weren't investigating him in the beginning, right?
No, but
No.
he's
There was
around. Like they had gotten letters.
There was copycats. Or
So
whatever.
okay, so BTK, and so those little opening sequences that we had of the ATT serviceman who's going to become BTK,
Yeah.
are all
Season 2, BTK has been around. They've gotten letters. He's
Okay.
being like they're investigating his copycat of that other guy's signature.
Yeah.
Right.
and
So he's around. They're aware of him.
and the openings are all prequels technically, right? Are all prior to him becoming that, or does that? Do you think
I
that's
think
happening?
it's simultaneous.
I think
because
it's
he did it between
simultaneous.
74 and 91
Okay,
was his last one.
Because
Yeah.
like the cool thing about that was kind of like you still got a little bit of the season 1 flavor of like, let me see this creepy weird shit, but then also
Yeah.
you're like, is this happening now or is it happening then? Because it was cool to see
Simultaneously, dude.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, is it happening now or is he going to become his true final form?
Ugh.
Yeah. No, it
I
was
think
it
his
was
case,
a long
his last
term.
one was 91.
Okay.
His
Yeah.
last
My-
case was 91.
my
Or last kill was
birthday.
91.
My birth year.
To freak
Yeah.
you out even more, Caitlin, he went on to just have a family. And he just
Ugh.
was like, if you
And-
saw him, he's just like a regular dude. And he just got
And I
tired
think he was
because
the
people
leader of
forgot
his
about him.
church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Um,
caught him via a computer in a church that he was
Yeah.
working on.
Ran. Yeah, that he volunteered at and
Yeah.
ran.
Has anyone
Yeah.
seen
So,
Dexter?
I wonder how they're going
That
to do that.
was
Lift Gap.
Jeez.
those were actually my favorite. Some of my favorite parts
Was-
of the season
vignettes?
was the vignettes in the beginning. Of
Vinaigrettes,
seeing
I love
him,
vinaigrette.
just seeing him go through the process of like, first being, told to sleep on the couch, and then there's probably a divorce in there somewhere, and then
The copy machine scene.
copy machine scene, which was awesome, and it was just really interesting, and him like creeping up on Lady and being bummed that there was some strong man to help her with the groceries, and so it was just I love that they were just like quiet scenes. They kind of bring you into the mood, and
being a killer.
I think they were fantastic to have them on.
I agree.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Sonny
Well done.
Valententi.
Yes,
I think one of my ultimate favorite part is watching Holden change near the very end of the season, because every time he's in Atlanta, they make a point to show that he is sweating through his clothes every single time.
Right under his belt.
Right under his
love
in the
that.
back
I
and
love
in the
that.
armpits.
Poor
and
guy.
after Tench chews him out about what he's going through, and he's like, I'm dealing with a lot of shit. You need to get off my case because I am having to deal with all of this. So shut the fuck up.
And also have to worry about you.
And I have to
Yeah.
worry about you. It like throws it away so casually.
I love that.
And after that point, he starts wearing like polo shirts
Yeah.
and starts chilling out. It's like
Mhm.
getting to watch him realize his mistakes and break out of that like uniform
Well,
cycle.
I love
Yeah.
that scene because it precedes the montage of them.
Oh, the montage. I
Like,
loved the montage.
getting
Oh,
ready for
right.
the stakeouts and then like getting the
Oh,
prescription
yeah.
drugs and all that
Yeah.
stuff and getting the ointments from the mosquitoes. Like Josh, you were talking about like there's sometimes a really good montage that you're just victim of. You're like, I love it because it's like this felt like a really good, like the band's back together.
Yeah.
Using the
Yeah.
walkies to like wake each other up, like the
the
feedback from the walkies.
and
Or
like
him
Letting each
turning up
other
the radio.
sleep sometimes
Yeah.
and then not other times.
using repetition of shots of like the different type of room service that they would keep putting outside the room and all that stuff,
Yeah.
waking up. And
One of
like,
my favorite ones was Holden grabbing Tench's whatchamacallit?
badge, gun,
Not binder.
notebook.
No notebook either. It's oh my god, why can't I remember the name of this
Clipboard.
word? Clipboard, there it is. And he's
Yay.
doing like sports stats on top of the notes
Oh,
he's
yeah,
supposed to
and
be
throws
taking
it
for all the
out.
courses.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I loved how like well, was it Barney or was it Tench who's like they're sleeping and they're sleeping in here.
Yeah.
It's like this is they expended as much like manpower as they possibly could.
Yeah.
So
There's a scene, I believe it's either episode 1 or episode 2. They're talking to what I'm just going to call the man without a face. And it's just
in the back of the truck and he wouldn't talk because he got shot 3 times.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
he was a victim of BTA.
I wouldn't even call him a
and they
man.
were-
He was a kid.
Yeah, and it was
You
such
are
a
a man.
well-made and well-shot scene. It was
yeah.
also there. It was raining, and the way that they did sound design and the way that it would
The
switch.
music building.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
the
was,
train
the
sound.
train
the
building.
train was the main thing that I was like,
Because
Sorry, that's what I meant. It wasn't music, it was trains.
I was like, not gonna lie, watching that scene, I was like going to get freaked out. I was like, if they're gonna show his face just like a "Rah!" moment, I was like, don't do it, don't, because the train's coming in. It's like he's like
yeah.
they're asking penetrating questions and like he's tearing up, and you're like, is he just gonna explode on them? and just-
reliving it.
Yeah.
Especially when they point out the shotgun
Gun
back
is in the
there.
back there.
It's
Yeah.
like I was full on expecting him to either blow his brains out or shoot them if they turned around.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they set that scene up
Well
to
done
be
scene.
horror.
But the
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
thing I liked about it was that, like, even though again it's a Fincher show, right? They still kind of champion the survivor, right? And I really liked how it wasn't like he's on edge, but then he doesn't have the, I guess, inkling to see that like, oh, he's suicidal.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's kind of like even though through trauma and traumatic experiences, like it's not never to blame to like take your own life because you've lived through something like that. But like this boy, like will continue living his life even though he doesn't want to be seen. And it's like
yeah.
it's such a in between place of like
He finds a way.
mainstream media, what they want to talk about and how they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually talking to shout out to Julie.
Shout out, Julie.
Shout out to Julie. About how this show did. I mean, it's still walking that line. Anytime you talk about the serial killers, there's a glorification of
The killer.
what they're doing because
yeah.
you don't focus on the survivors so much. You just focus on like, isn't it so fucked up that they did this awful, awful thing? Here's all the details of the graphic things that they've done. Everybody wants to know. And they show that in this show.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
toe that line really well of like David Fincher, everybody's a pervert.
Yeah.
Like all of us want to know everything that they did. And they show you, and they don't hide anything about
But
it.
to us, it's
the best
unthinkable.
part-
So to
It's-
hear
it's-
someone do it is like it's a fable almost. It's
Right.
a story.
I love
But they
seeing-
also have those moments with like the survivor coming in and being like, no, this is really terrible and it affects people. And like the Atlanta with the moms, like
But to add to that point, it does suck because how does Tench get out of any problems with his son? He brings up his war stories of how he talked to Charles Manson or Ed Kemper.
Yeah.
How does he get the side of the FBI? Tell me about your stories and all that stuff. How does he talk about things in the barbecue? I was like, you really? How was it like?
Yeah.
And to me,
Yeah.
shout out to all the basic white girls who like them crime podcasts. Because that's what that is. That's 100%. Because we, and right now, 2019 America, we have this infatuation with it. And it's like,
Yeah.
It's been the past like 5 years. I would
5
say.
years. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying like,
true
it's a-
crime.
Longer than that, dude.
I wouldn't say
But it's become much more prevalent
Yeah, you
in
hear
media.
about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I mean, again, you can like what you like, not here to kink shame and all that stuff, but it's kind of like, it's interesting to see like, yeah, you enjoy the certain parts of it, but just understand there's two sides
Yeah.
of it all.
Well-
And should be some depressing things. in
What
there.
I took
Yeah.
away, and what I appreciated from that element was seeing everybody, all the actors, all the characters' reactions to everything, like how they dealt with that information. Like if like being told stories, like when Holt was telling the stories, the people around him at the retreat or whatever, like their reactions, their faces, like that was
They eat it up.
yeah.
everybody stopped.
But no,
in
I
that
mean, there were
dining
some that were like
hall.
horrified and
Yeah.
there were some that were disturbed, and seeing those faces, like a huge shout out. We still haven't, I don't think we've really given her much attention yet. Who's the wife?
Nancy.
Nance is played by Stacy
Tench.
Roca.
Stacey Roca did a phenomenal job. I think
Oh my gosh, watching that
just the heartbreak and like seeing her emotional, like
the story.
Her evolution.
when she learned that it was a baby, like that crushed, like her reaction to that crushed me. And I was just
Yeah.
like,
Can you believe that was based
Holy-
on a true story?
crap.
The
Like,
actual-
I can't.
The part where the mother comes in to try to forgive Brian,
my
and then we
God.
leave on a
Oh.
wide, and you just hear like that one
No,
sob.
that's
like,
not
yeah.
possible.
oh, it's
Not
so
possible.
good. I do want to make one quick tangent, real quick. Watching this show, watching the first 3 episodes Dave Fincher directed, made me think, my God, I want a next installment of the Hannibal Lecter story starring Anthony Hopkins, directed by David Fincher.
David Fincher.
Oh, man. Yeah.
My God!
Hollywood, do you hear
I
us?
would fucking dollars to donuts
Hollywood,
spend all
do
the money.
you hear us?
Hollywood, make it happen.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can't imagine because it would be so good.
And Daniel Craig
It would look
be the
good.
detective.
You son of a bitch. Hollywood, are you listening? Are you listening to me? All
good.
cameras.
I would also pay money, to be honest, to see Adrian Brody as a detective.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Opposite.
That would work.
Opposite Hopkins.
Yes.
Anyway, that's not this episode.
Yeah.
One of my favorite aspects of both the Mindhunter as a whole is their music choice. Because what's really fun is that it maybe just what I would like to do is maybe go through and just listen to the actual music that they're using, because Charles Manson, some of his music is in this show. One of the songs.
Caitlyn
in
looks
season,
confused. Josh, please explain.
Charles Manson's music is in the show.
Yeah, he came to Hollywood to be a musician first.
Yeah.
And basically got turned away by
Ugh.
everybody.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Caitlyn,
So you
One
can
of
listen
the-
to his
you
music
could-
online.
you could have met someone who's
he's
just
on
like
Spotify.
that.
Also, in season 1, they used a song called "I Don't Like Mondays," and the story of that song
Did
is that it's
Garfield write it?
Huh?
I'm sorry. I
Did
said,
Garfield write it?
Garfield write it?
No, that's his song.
I'm
is
sorry.
Lasagna, Lasagna,
I'm sorry.
Lasagna.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right.
I'm sorry, John.
I'm sorry. Hard left turn.
It's by the Boomtown
Shout out to
Rats, and it's based off a school shooting that was done in 1979.
Oh.
And they asked her why she did it, and she said, "I don't like Mondays."
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
Wow.
God.
yeah. So I mean, using stuff that has kind of a
Context.
message
That
and
tie
a
to it.
context,
Right.
it's
And it's in the same time frame.
yeah,
That's
and
really
it's
dope.
it's just really awesome. I love that. And then so when the season ended, season 2, it was very anticlimactic and disappointing. But what I love about that and why I think it's brilliant is because the real Atlanta child murders, it was
it was solved.
disappointing.
Anticlimactic
Yeah.
and disappointing.
Yeah.
Made the risk to bring in like a real world scenario where these fictional FBI characters that were created for the show that are based on the characters in the book
That
can
are
live
based on real people.
They're based on real people that can live in the real world and live in during these events. And it's really tough. Again, you're gonna have 3 white main characters solve problems in a black city.
Yeah.
But then talking about it in such a responsible way that it's like, these are still true facts of life.
Yeah.
That
Right.
like these
Yeah.
lives are still destroyed. And that black end slate is just like 2019, 0 convictions.
Yeah.
It almost felt like a call to action to be like, hey guys, we did our victory lap how many decades ago? Maybe
Yeah.
we should care again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like stop glorifying the killers and start
Right.
looking and try to build the families up again.
I think it's just so interesting because, like, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I did want to add on to your music thing.
Yeah.
I loved so Netflix, whoever developed the skip intro is a godsend, right?
That's what I'm saying.
But the intro to this is amazing.
Yes.
But
I can't.
the last episode, you
Oh, the
can't skip
choir.
it.
Yep.
Because it's an orchestral version of the opening.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Right
really
away.
liked how I was like, oh, this is the magnum
It was nicely
opus,
done.
baby.
Yeah.
This is I'm not supposed to skip this. They
Yeah.
told me I can't skip it, so
Was
I'm
that
not gonna.
and also was that a boys choir?
Probably.
I think it might have been a boys choir.
Ooh.
Could have been a
Which
boys
all-
choir that was recorded in Atlanta.
Would make your heart just
Ooh.
go, oh.
Yeah.
Especially
Ow.
with the topic at hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
also
always-
want to point out. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we'll do a couple more and then we'll go to favorite characters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have one last thing after
Yeah,
Josh.
go ahead and go.
Oh, I was just gonna say another season with only one handheld. that I caught at least.
Yeah.
And that's when
I
he's
noticed that
running to
too.
try to put the cross up.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That they also did.
What?
They went a little bit above, and
sequence.
they changed with they did like a filter change.
Yeah, they did like a film look.
Question. I don't fully understand why things changed so drastically for that.
So
It felt just really out of place, jarring to me.
So that sequence, the march, is a real march,
Right.
And so they're trying to go for, from what I've read, they were trying to go for like the realistic documentary look of it,
Right.
and then insert shots of him outside of those scenes. So
Outside of those moments, because there is footage.
yeah, so
Real
like
footage.
you'll see like the actual footage, and then you'll see shots that look like the actual footage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're blending. It's like a docudrama. They're trying to
They're
blend
blending
it.
fiction and reality together in one.
Yeah.
And I think in a sense, if you like it, you don't like it, it's one thing or the other. But I think
Right.
it's supposed to be a little jarring because it is him. Like, and I forget her name, but the woman did say like, don't make any promises because you won't be able to keep them.
Yeah.
Bell.
And,
Something Bell. Camille Bell, I think.
Camila Bell
Right?
is my wife.
Camille Bell.
She was
Well,
married to a Jonas.
Camille Bell.
I think it's
Camille
also showing. I mean, we talked about this being Tench's season, but
Right.
Holden also goes through a pretty real struggle, which I think is he's constantly finding that the bigger this operation is getting, the more out of his control it is, and how much like BS he has to go through. Like 5
Oh, the
jurisdictions
red
have to
tape.
sign off on the thing.
on a form being
And, like-
printed and
He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't get that printed in
And, like,
time.
They like couldn't get the crosses that they needed, and
And
it's
then
like
they had to
two shits.
assemble them.
You have to assemble
the day
them.
of.
so
It was just a job for them.
Yeah.
They didn't have any passion, no urgency.
Right,
Right.
exactly. So I mean, I think that was like that all coming to a head. I think
Right.
like him like trying his hardest what he could to like run the crosses out, and then when he fails and he doesn't make it, like
Yeah.
that's kind
Because
of
he
like
was supposed to be there before the cameras get there.
Right.
Which is why they switch back to the like news cameras.
yeah, and it's like he
'cause
can
that's
try
his
as hard
race.
as he can, but there's always going to be these elements in the way that are going to stop him from the success that he
Because
wants
if
to
he
get.
doesn't get there
Yeah.
before the cameras get there, the killer doesn't see it.
right.
Meaning that the whole thing is lost.
Useless.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So favorite characters?
yeah, let's do it.
Everyone included. So we'll do favorite character and side character, a proper way before, like than we haven't been doing that lately. Corey, want to start us out?
It's tough for me. I mean, I don't know if I have like a favorite standout. For me, it's like all the pieces need to fit for this show to work. Tench obviously stands out to me as just like a really good dude and trying to make everyone happy. And I think I felt the most sympathy for him. But I'm also fascinated with Holden. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask this question to be honest. I know
Alright,
Barney
then
stood
you-
out to me as
You've
a
lost your
favorite
vote
side
now,
character.
so moving on. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. So
So you said Barney is a side?
Yeah, that's if he's a side, then he's my favorite side character
So
by
Tench,
far.
Tench first, then Barney?
well, he would say
With a side
the
fascination.
three.
I would say
Holden?
the Holy Trinity and
Yeah.
then Barney.
Yeah.
Fuck Greg.
Yeah. Celery, onions.
I like
bitch.
Greg just to watch him because he's just such a
He's like a worse.
He almost ruined everything.
He's like a worse Jerry.
Yeah.
From Rick and
Yeah.
Morty.
He's
Yeah.
like, I feel like Greg is like a puppy that you know is potty trained, but still pees on the carpet anyway.
Yeah.
Well, like
That's it.
in all honesty,
Yeah.
Greg
Yeah.
is kind of like the FBI's version of the bullshit that Holden went through in Atlanta. Like these
Yeah.
are cogs in the
Yeah.
machine that would be like, oh well, I mean,
this is what you're supposed to do.
yeah, it's like Jesus, can you like, get some oomph in your step?
Every time
and-
he was outcast, I was like, yeah, good.
yeah, it's like I need you guys in my office, not you. It's like God damn.
Yeah.
I was like,
You
hell
almost
yeah.
you start feeling bad for him a little bit. But,
Caitlyn?
Nope.
Favorite
Nope.
character inside?
favorite for me is Holden. And Holden.
Oh,
Why? Who did you think it was?
I don't know.
Holden, just because there are aspects of him that my brain relates to, where when I hyper focus on things sometimes, and then I think that I have to like take care of that one thing, and that's the right thing. And he does the same thing, but as Atlanta shows, that's not always the case. And sometimes you have to like have something blow up in your face to like course correct. So I in that regard, I don't have an insane interest in serial
know
killers.
your audience.
Yeah.
Know that saying that a black person could have killed everyone to a black commissioner and a black mayor might be a bad thing.
Not the best
Yeah.
decision, Holden, for sure. I
Yeah.
actually did hate him a little bit in the second season, but by the end of it, I was like, okay, you're still figuring it out. It's okay, little baby.
Yeah,
I
you're
know.
definitely supposed to.
All right,
Yeah,
who's
no,
your
for sure.
who's your side bay?
My side bay. Instantly I want to say Barney, but really I think it's Kemper. Because he kind of also runs circles around Holden.
Yeah.
Because like even when Holden talks about like what happened to him, he only says he hugged me.
Mhm.
He doesn't mention that he threatened his life and
Did
said,
he-
I can kill you right now.
Is that
and no one will
threatening,
see.
or is he just saying a fact?
He's saying a fact, but it was
Right.
like
You
obviously
think it was like a hidden, like he was stating a fact
It's a
of like
power
how,
play.
like
it was a power move. But yeah, I
BDE,
think
legit.
Yeah, exactly.
BDE.
Big dick energy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, I think Kemper, just because he's like weirdly sweet too, which grosses me out to say.
It's such
but
a good
He's
performance.
intelligent.
It's such a
Yeah.
good
A friend of
performance.
mine, I think I mentioned this on season 1. A friend of
Kemper?
mine. Yeah, the actor.
What? Wait, what?
The actor who plays Kemper. A friend of mine dated him in high school. Very
Shout
nice
out
guy.
to dates.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh,
And
Nice.
I also
Wow.
know this
Talented
friend.
dude. He was great in Umbrella Academy too.
Yeah.
So I like
Yeah, he
that
was.
actor.
he was in Umbrella
fantastic.
Academy.
Yeah, he's one of the 2 hitmen. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Anyway,
Joshua?
So more focusing on the wrong things,
Yeah,
like
sorry,
moles on the
sorry,
back of the
sorry.
neck.
Mhm.
Josh,
It's really hard to pick with this one. I really
They're all
love
good. Wendy's fascinating. Tench
Oh
is
yeah.
Yeah, Tench
I
is.
love Wendy.
If I had to gun to my head, I would say Tench is my favorite. But yeah, I like the way that you put it, Corey. The Holy Trinity.
No, the Holy
Mhm.
Trinity is
I mean, one-
amazing.
I mean, Jim Barney has already been mentioned, but I do want to mention Kay Mans, Wendy's her bae.
Yeah.
It was
Which
just
bae?
an interesting thing to
Old
watch.
Bay, New Bay.
The
I like Old
New
Bay
Bay.
because it's
New
a
Bay.
basil
the bartender.
or it's a bay leaf.
It was just interesting to watch that somebody who's kind of a free spirit
Mm-hmm.
push somebody who's so like.
but is she a free spirit or is that
Nope.
bullshit?
No,
Yeah.
it's bullshit.
In
but
that
it's still fun to
instance,
see
yes.
her push.
He's air quoting. I know it.
Yeah,
Actually,
Free
he
spirit.
didn't.
I didn't.
But
He did.
In
I
his mind,
didn't.
he did.
yeah, he
Yeah.
did there. For
Hunter.
sure.
Under the table, he is.
Zoom in on me as I stare straight. Like
Zoom in on Josh as he says, "I'm not wearing hockey pads."
No! How did you shoehorn that?
He did it.
I
I
don't know.
imagine a little just
Wasn't a
picture
shoehorn. It
of
was
the spell on
beautiful
your
timing.
face.
Oh wow.
Me?
Ali, not killer free.
Oh.
Yes. Keep him in behind bars.
Ollie characters, please.
I
that
mean,
was good.
it's Bill Tench, number 1.
Yeah.
Baby.
Baby.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help. He has, I think, probably has the most screen time. You just get to know him a lot more. You see what he goes through. It's
Such a good actor.
and Holt obviously knocks it out of the park. He's just entertaining to watch, and it's just funny, and he's got such a great attitude.
all the
So
shit he has
I
to
just
deal
love
with.
the character. Yeah,
Dude, that barbecue scene where he's telling all the dads about what he does.
I was,
So
I was
good.
thinking about the barbecue when he was trying to teach his kid how to flip a burger.
Oh, yeah.
a freaking burger,
Oh.
5-second rule.
5-second rule. It's all right.
Yeah, it's toss it back on the grill. You're fine. And then secondary is his wife, Stacey Roca.
Oh
she
my
had,
God,
she
yeah.
has a tall. She
Well
had
done, dude.
that actor had a tall order.
Dad actor.
Yeah.
That actor.
She
Tall
did. No,
order.
she really did, though.
And she delivered. Like just seeing her her heartbreak and her starting to like detach from her son, and it was
Totally
just like
And her
dissociating herself from
marriage.
her family.
it was
Everything.
insane to watch.
But then she
that
takes the
happen.
kid at
But
the
she
end.
takes the
So
kid and
she's like, you know
goes-
what? We're going to go to a new neighborhood.
Yeah.
We're going to start a
So-
new life.
So in a way, I'm not super. I mean, I'm pissed at her, obviously, if like from fictionally. But
Yeah.
Fictionally, I'm pissed
but
off.
at least she's with the son. That's
Well,
what
because we get the
counts.
benefit of seeing what Tench is going through. She doesn't.
right.
And then
right.
like season, like I can't wait for season 3 for that. Like that's what I'm looking forward to in season 3 is seeing
Yeah.
the
again.
full circle.
Yeah,
You wanna see the
how he
divorce
has to deal
papers?
with it.
Oh, but
Oh,
season
well, how
3
he deals with it as
hasn't
a
been announced
character,
yet.
you know. He's probably going to move out. We're probably going to see him in an apartment or something.
Or he might move in with Holden.
Or he might move in
No
Holden.
way. No
Weekend at
way.
Bernie's.
I need a roommate.
and then it's the Odd Couple.
Yeah.
Or he might just live
That-
at the
that one
like
instance
killers,
of-
the other likes
'Cause he's-
cleanliness. Yeah.
I know he's not going to stay in that house.
That one instance of our Tench being like, "Can you sit on your own bed?" Like,
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
I don't think he would ever consider that unless
So-
financial straits.
financial.
Those are my picks.
For me, it's Tench. For sure.
I'm surprised and shocked.
It was a match between that or Wendy because Wendy I think went through a lot of things that I think are important.
Oh, yeah.
And I liked her. I liked her having. I don't like her dealing with the fact that some FBI guy was trying to hit on her and it was really terrible.
Oh God!
I
But I like the way that she dealt
that
with it.
moment where Gunn unzips the top
and
of
then
her
he
dress and she zips it right back up and is like,
And I was like, oh shit!
Oh,
I had to
she's
rewind that. I was
great.
like, was
And
that
then he's
always
already
down or was he
hitting on some
fixing
other
it?
girl.
no, he made it that way.
Yeah.
down.
And I was like,
Tucked it
and
down
I was
a
like,
little
oh, I don't feel comfortable because I know for a fact what's going to happen.
He even did the little when she pulled it back up, his eyes darted down and
Oh, yeah,
back up and was
he
like,
noticed.
okay.
Oh yeah, he did, and he smiled about it, and I was like, God damn it.
she was
But then
so badass.
also the scene that she got where he's just saying you should just stay in the sciences, and it's a side angle of her, and he's next to her, and he's never in focus because what's being said is more important than actually the face that's saying it. And
Her
so
reaction is what's important.
yeah, and so I really liked those scenes, but to
They
me
did it a few times.
Yeah. The thing is that Tench, I feel like even though he actually is dragging his feet in terms of progressing the story, things are kind of happening to him
Right.
versus he's pushing a lot of things along the way. But once, again, he has really good performances here and there. And you kind of, since we're along on this ride with him, you just feel nothing but bad for him.
yeah.
And so my side character would probably be Barney if it had to be. I actually almost don't feel like he's a side character.
Yeah.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
It feels like he's about to be a main.
Yeah. So
That's why I said if you count him as a side
Yeah,
character,
if you
he's my
count him.
favorite.
I'll say that.
Otherwise, it's the Holy Quadrilogy.
But he's from
Holy
he
quadrilogy.
was from DC,
Yeah,
right?
I believe
he?
so. Yeah.
He's an agent from DC.
Oh.
So my transfer.
Yeah, he used to work with Tench.
Oh, sorry. I immediately went to comics.
Oh, no.
Jesus. That's
I
good.
can't help it.
That's good. I like
No,
that.
Tom was like, I'm proud now.
I like
I
that.
was
I'm
mad
proud.
at first, but now I'm
Tom's like,
proud.
yes, excellent.
So now
It's
Welcome to
working.
the dark side.
go into qualms.
Qualms.
I got one.
Corey,
Am I
you're-
starting us
yeah.
off again?
Yeah, you're the Source Connect, so you do it.
I have one. I really don't have any qualms with this show, story, character-wise, and it's with the makeup.
That's my qualm too.
The makeup?
For some reason, between season 1 and season 2, everyone looks orange and yellow.
You can see a vast difference between their face and their neck.
Oh, I didn't even.
Yeah,
That's funny. I didn't even notice.
It drove me
Caitlyn.
insane.
For shame.
I know.
No, it's the only thing that would take me out of scenes is that whoever they got or whatever lighting they were using was bringing the foundation out, and it was very, very
on.
yellow. Happened a lot on Wendy,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yes.
but a ton on Ford as well.
I feel like they had a lot of fluorescent.
Well, they did in
Lights.
season 1
Well,
too.
yeah, Fincher
It's
likes
just
that.
It's whoever it's the makeup team, I believe, on this one, because it's such a vast different. They're in a lot of the same rooms in season 1 as they are in season 2 in the basement, and it's jumping out at me.
It's
So
cake,
that's
yeah.
my only qualm.
It definitely looks like caked on. Looks like war
Yeah.
paint. Looks like they should be
Yeah.
called the Joker.
There was times where I was like, well, I wouldn't have done the makeup like that. Wow, I can
Oh,
But
actually
I mean,
see it.
it's tough. It's tough because you never know what post is going to do. You never know what the
Yeah.
film's going to pick up. So I don't want to shit on anyone.
My
but
thing-
it
No,
just-
no.
I didn't pick up on it, but my thing is always I guess it was you said you saw it on Ford too,
Yep.
on Men. Oh.
And Tench every once in a while, but mostly Ford and Wendy.
Mm.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe it's my TV.
Anyone else have any qualms?
I have
Um,
seen that it's actually it's kind of like a known thing that people have said,
Yeah,
because some people have said what you just said, where it's like, well, I didn't see that on my TV.
yeah.
So that's interesting
could
because
be.
I saw it on my TV. So I mean,
I don't know.
Especially, if you look at their face and then their neck right afterwards,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty rough.
Did you say that Fincher only directed the first 3 seasons?
Three
Or,
episodes of
Three
the-
episodes
Of this season.
Of this season.
of this
yeah.
season.
In the
Okay.
last season, he did the first 2 and the last 2.
That actually makes a lot of sense because one of my qualms for the season was that it felt like Fincher was being too Finchery a couple points, and now I'm like, oh, the
Yeah.
other director was
It's being
trying
imitated.
to emulate that, but
Directors,
didn't get it.
Yeah.
Directors, but didn't replicate it perfectly
Advice on paper
because
is
I
different.
could see it.
Advice
yeah,
on
yeah.
paper is different than application.
Yeah, because there was a
Yeah,
couple
so-
times where it was really trying to show the faces, but it cut really harshly. And I
Season
could
1,
really see it. Whoa.
He does the first 2 and last 2 episodes in season 1, and then this one he just does the first 3.
Josh is just passing around a photo of
the yellow
of
face.
Wendy
It's
Carr's yellow
really
face.
apparent
That
now.
definitely does not look like that on my TV.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no,
You-
it didn't
you
look
can
like
Google
that at all
actually
for
if
me.
you Google Mindhunter season
Even-
2 yellow, it's called the yellowface scandal.
Or even
Whoa, no.
I've even heard it called the jaundice.
See,
Yeah.
okay, that actually makes sense because I usually watch on my PC and I
Yeah.
usually always have everything turned down brightness because my eyes are really sensitive
mode.
and I have flux turned
Yeah.
on.
Oh.
So,
So everything's
everything's
yellow.
already
Perfect
really
color
yellowed.
So there you
it's-
go.
So hers is PC, the jaundice mode.
I only have flux off when I'm like editing in Photoshop or something.
Interesting.
So otherwise I would never have done that.
I hate flux
Really?
because I want the blue lights in my eyes
Oh,
to
I
keep
can't.
me up all night.
I can't. it burns me immediately.
how he lives.
I need to stay woke
You need-
so I don't sleep on the truth. I
need-
never take
Oh my God.
You need blux. You need blue shift.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
gross.
also think it was partly that this season was more yellow, so it just brought it
Yeah.
out more.
Uh,
Anyway,
that makes
could be,
sense.
yeah.
Any other qualms? I got a couple.
That's
go Tom.
S-
Yeah. go
So
ahead.
so it's interesting because I can't remember this first season, but I remember obviously watching the second season because it's recent in memory. They
Yeah.
do a thing where like they open episodes with the BTK
Mhm.
and then they
Yeah.
don't.
Oh, right.
And
two that
it's
they don't.
understandably because the way that the last episode ends, it's like super like, oh fuck, we caught a guy. And then you start
Yeah.
out with we're catching the guy. And for me, it kind of made it where it's like, well then why do it?
I don't know. Like episode 7, it was. I
Season
think it
one
starts
did
with
the
him
same
like
thing.
answering a phone, like, and it felt a little mundane. I was like, why did you leave it out of? Like, you could have put it. This scene doesn't require
Yeah.
immediacy.
I mean, and those are the kind of things where it's like, I feel like there were patterns being built, and then for them to in edit to not use the pattern.
I think it's 7 and 9 that don't. have
And
them.
and honestly, I would say like maybe it's used to do an effect to being like, oh, I'm used to seeing the BTK. Let's see. Oh,
Hey, remember?
9 I can understand because it's at the end.
Well, no, it's kind of
they do that in
but-
season 1. It's not. He's not always there in the beginning.
That was
it's kind of like in like if you watch the movie and then like the first 2 movies have like the opening credits and the last one doesn't. You're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, is this not a trilogy or it is a trilogy? Like, is it not
I
a
would-
season?
I'd have to go back and watch, but I believe every time he's included, it ties into what they found in the last episode, or directly ties you back into what you thought. So, for instance, that last shot of him, right? So we find out that this crime possibly wasn't sexual based,
Mhm.
and then it's totally off what they've learned. And the
Mhm.
last thing we see is a killer who's totally sexually based.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be. I think they only use it in moments where you're supposed to have conflict with yourself, kind of, on what you're learning and what they're learning.
It
But
could
I'd have
be.
to go back and
I think that works for like 60% of it, but one that glares again, example for example, no one wins. Is like the first episode they talk about BTK and they show like the symbols that he makes,
Yeah.
and then 4 episodes later they show the Xerox machine thing, and you see the
Yeah.
symbol. You're like, why
Well,
the fuck wasn't
he-
that before that?
you do see it before then.
Like it doesn't end, the
Him
la-
designing
the
it
last
and
scene
stuff.
before like the episode before does not end with the symbol
No,
or any
no,
type
it
of like
doesn't.
moniker or signatures for killers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
but I think you see it he's designing it in the first or second episode.
Yeah, but that connects to the
Oh, I
next
see what you're saying.
episode. Doesn't talk about the Xerox machine, how that's supposed to correlate to the last scene of the last episode.
Right.
So I mean, like that was kind of a interesting, like jarring thing where it was kind of like, I don't know how this show is going to start anymore because you kind of like. You like with Fincher, it's like it's orchestrative. And I'm the kind of person that I love watching the opening. But then if you give me something that's more like I think is more interesting than the opening scene, then you're doing your job. And I'm not saying like they did a bad job because I like watching the opening, but it's like nothing really geared me to like say skip intro until I started seeing more BTK shit. And then when they stopped, I was like, well, I guess I'm just letting the intro play then because I don't know what the fuck's happening. And like, I'm not in that place where it's like, I need to see what the fuck happens next.
Mhm.
So it was a very interesting experience for me in that sense.
I see what you're saying.
And
Well, I mean, this just got me thinking. I'm sorry.
thanks for cutting me off, Scott. Just don't
Anyway,
say sorry.
It was what's interesting is the parallel between BTK because he was so active for so long and wasn't caught for so long that it's like it is kind of like here's a little thing. Hey, remember? This is still going on.
Well, in my brain, like I kind of separated them a little bit out from the show. Like it was almost like
It was
a
like a
mini
short
show.
film?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a short film. And I was like, I get it. Like I kind of follow this through line and I see where it's going. And but yeah, I do wish it was like consistent.
I mean, the only way that I liked the change was at the end, where the last episode
Right.
ends with BTK.
That one I can-
because
I
and
can
it's
get
a
behind,
longer.
yeah.
It's a season
Yeah,
finale.
season 1 ended with BTK too.
So like it feels good that way, right? And again, you create patterns in our brain. That's how our brains work. The second thing, I wasn't a big fan of the fact that it became an Atlanta season.
That was gonna be my
Really?
qualm. Yeah.
Like I kind of you set up the season 1 to be kind of like episodic, and then season 2, like as Josh said, it became a serial show, and it was an interesting we're here in Georgia and this thing's happening. I kind of had the expectation that Holden couldn't do anything, so he'd just go back to the bureau and feel bad about it, but continue doing his research. But the entire series or the season became this. Initially, I was very put off because I was just so far you haven't really given a shit about things that might happen. Like you're kind of looking at older cases, but now thinking
I
about
think
it,
it's the application of their.
it's the application, but also the fact that guns involved now. He's now we have to use this in the field.
Pro science
Exactly.
chief.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's called the chief unit
Dude.
director.
But he's not we're not saying oh, you could only use this on cold cases. You have to do this on current cases. And this has to be
Yeah.
a current study, not
We need to get it seen.
not backwards.
Right.
And so it made sense in that narrative way, but it just kind of felt a little weird we decided to be here.
Yeah.
Well, I think they went back to Atlanta a little too soon. I dug the break, and I was like, okay, you guys have to throw in the towel. You have to move on. You guys are called back. I wish they had to go to a different assignment first and then come back to Atlanta.
We got Jim Jones, and then also actually
Something
boom.
where you can go interview him or something and learn something. Obviously they did that and they had the parallels of showing the other interviews, but I think they could have learned from doing another remote case somewhere, either failing horribly or succeeding, and then taking what they learned and then being called back into Atlanta.
I would say the one thing
Maybe.
that they try to do to appease that point was they had all three in the office, and it's they need field agents.
Right.
And then
Mhm.
there's that tension of Carr, who's just we're
Not you,
supposed.
Greg.
Yeah, well, Carr's just we're supposed to be doing research, and then Tench is just whatever you say.
Because that could have heightened the drama a little bit of Tench and his wife of being oh, I went to Atlanta. Oh, no, I have to go to this place and I have to go back to Atlanta. And then that could have been really kind of ridiculous in her eyes to feed that narrative. Not that I didn't necessarily needed it.
She kind of had that already to begin with. She was you can't do this forever.
I didn't need it, but it would have I think it would have amplified it.
Accentuated.
And yeah. That was really the only thing. And same thing. I just didn't want it to be because the second half of the season is Atlanta.
I have other qualms.
on.
Keep going.
Mine would have been. I'm not 100% sure if I was okay with the fact that they were making the first 3 episodes such a big deal with this panic attacks with Holden,
What?
and then just
and
not.
it doesn't pay off
and then
anymore
nothing
at the
happens.
end. Yeah.
Oh, you mean where
Like,
it
just
kinda-
kinda-
You don't
Gets over
Because he's
them.
on a case.
Well, the last thing you hear of it is that Tench says, "Go take a Valium or something. You look messed up," and that was it. And I was kind of I wanted a little bit more of he still has to continually deal with it.
Some kind of
Right.
confrontation where he either overcomes it.
I mean, not even that. Where it's more just he looks at the Valium, puts it down, or the Valium's always next to his desk.
Some kind of attention
He
to it.
does bring it. He does
He still gets
check
the
it and
prescription, yeah.
shakes the bottle every now and again. So
Yeah.
they do make it apparent that he's on his meds.
I think also I was not jaded, but
It's a long.
I was
con
I was
thing.
affected a little bit because people had told me Tom, you got to go watch this, and it's and if I learned one thing that panic attacks happen, and they'll stay with you, and I was oh shit, this is gonna be a theme throughout the season. No, it's not. It's only
Yeah,
a theme
I-
for the first.
That
3
was a
episodes.
little weird because I did want the tension of him potentially having a panic attack at any moment was a driving force, and then as
Right.
it kind of just poofed into thin air, it was
Well,
kind of
because his
okay, I
character
guess we're not
went-
worrying about that anyway.
Character went behind the scenes looking at a whiteboard. That's what his character he stopped having to confront killers.
Yeah.
Right.
That was kind of I think that was the missed opportunity. That's kind of what I meant. I wish they went somewhere and he did something where maybe he
To
had
have
to
to deal
confront
with
that
it.
issue.
That he wanted to hold on to.
But he's just trying to string things together, and there's no situation brought up where he would be confronted with something to bring that
I feel
forward.
like they might be using that as a chip for later, though.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean,
he's on
because
drugs,
this was
right?
Atlanta was also a good way to show having to deal with
A real
barriers
They didn't?
that they
Yeah.
didn't have to deal with before. They didn't have to deal with any kind of legal barriers
Other
because
than
everyone was just opening the door for them
but I'm saying
everywhere they went.
but from like from a writing perspective, that's what I kind of mean. Is that it's missed
I get what you
opportunity,
mean, though.
Corey, you were saying,
but you're saying I don't know if they explicitly said that whether or not or showed whether or not he actually took the pills.
He's prescribed Valium.
he only took it.
He took it
one
once.
time when he's next to the car.
Yeah,
When like the director
he
is
made
like,
sure.
"You're a piece of shit," blah blah blah. Oh, you young motherfuckers out here.
He
Is it
took
the-
one
Yeah.
then.
That's what
Is
he
it the
said.
Manson
Just like that.
one where he takes it out of his pocket just to make sure he has them?
He shakes it
He
just to
shakes
like,
it, make sure
say
I
that-
got plenty kind of thing.
yeah, and it might be like a
Well, it's-
placebo effect thing where he knows like I have it if I
Right.
need it.
What I read on it is that it's kind of it's probably going to come back in season 3, but it's kind of a parallel between him studying mental health and no one really believing anxiety was a thing until the 80s,
Right.
which is kind of what they're creeping into. They're in the early 80s, I believe.
Or
I think,
autism,
I think
maybe.
whatever you
Also,
read
right?
is wrong. People still don't think in mental illness.
Yeah, well,
I
you know what I mean.
know.
Yeah.
It wasn't categorized at the time.
yeah.
So people were prescribed Valium, which is not what they're prescribed today, obviously with the
Well,
opiate crisis
no.
and stuff like
I mean,
that.
in that
Not
sense,
at all.
like the way you just said it, it does hold the part of talking about like how Tench is dealing with someone like a child that he think might become a killer. Wendy is
Mhm.
technically seen as a sexual deviant, and Holden is dealing with mental illness that like he
No
talks
one
about all the
says
time.
is real.
Well, he researches it all the time, but you don't see that happening throughout the rest of the season. You see
Right.
Wendy dealing with the relationship being lesbian, and you see Tench like worrying that his kids can become a murderer. And so, like, to me, it's like you could have done a lot more theming with it. You could have done a lot more,
Yeah.
like, I don't need the Valium. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm on this case. And it's
Yeah.
like, once his life is going, like, I'm
Yeah.
good. But then when those slow, lull moments where he's not on a case, it's bad.
yeah.
Like, those kind of things I feel like are, again, if I were to redo it, because I have all the Netflix shows and bullshit, because I
Yeah.
don't. But it's like, that's one thing I was like, I wish it would have lingered a little longer.
A little bit.
So,
Yeah,
but
I'm
if-
sure in season 3 it's going to be. It's just when he's not working. It's when he has a pain. Same with Tench. His work is the only thing he's proficient at.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of the montage is that like once he's actually stationed in Atlanta, he like gets a chance to sleep.
yeah.
He doesn't sleep
Yeah.
when he's not in Atlanta, but when he does, he does. Yeah. So those are that.
Did we do it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because we don't grump it.
rate. Yeah, we don't,
don't
rate
rate it.
it.
I feel
So-
complete.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm very much
Yeah.
looking forward to season.
I
Did you
wanted to-
say
I-
you like the season?
Technically,
I like
season
the
3 hasn't
season.
been greenlit.
Has it?
Okay.
What?
Real quick,
It's coming.
It's
no,
coming.
I'm just
I'm sure
saying.
it
It's,
will.
I'm just being ridiculous.
Corey,
I think it's in the top 3 Netflix shows at the time. Right now.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No.
You'll come back.
The show.
Yes,
Corey,
Sam?
you might have read it, but like reading about how the show got made, it's crazy that like it was
Yeah.
in 2007. Charlize Theron got the
Mhm.
rights to the book. But like
It's been a while.
David Fincher didn't want to do it.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, and like when
This
I was
is like right up his alley.
yeah, but then it took him a while for him to get like
Doing House of Cards. and stuff.
comfortable with the material. He said
Oh.
he wasn't comfortable with it at first, and then he became comfortable in 2009.
Huh.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "What the flying?" Like,
I was
and-
I didn't
gonna
read the part
say-
where he wasn't comfortable with it. I just read that he was already starting a new show.
yeah, he wasn't
like,
comfortable with it.
As I was watching,
Interesting.
that there was that one interview I saw where he's like, everybody's a pervert. As
Yeah.
I was watching through season 1, I was like, oh my God,
video
this
essay.
makes so much sense of why he is doing the show.
Well,
like,
and he had also already done Zodiac, which is about serial killers.
right.
Yeah, and they mentioned
So-
Zodiac in this.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Name
100%.
drop.
Yeah, so it's in the same universe. Are we going to see
No, it's
Jake
not.
Gyllenhaal and
No, no,
and
no.
Robert Downey Jr.? Ba-dum. And then Eric, and then who else is? Isn't Ruffalo in it too?
Ruffalo's in it for sure. Yeah.
Fucking Fincher had the keys on the Avengers before. God.
Mm-hmm.
The
One day.
Adventures
One
of the
day. We'll get
Avengers.
there.
Oh my God! Could you?
The Avengers? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
I would-
The
Fincher.
I would say this.
No, I
Fincher,
said Avengers.
Fincher should
Oh,
also
Close
I thought
enough.
you said
Although
the
I wish I said
Avengers.
Avengers.
seeing this. Fincher should direct Moon Knight.
That'd be cool.
Oh.
Do a couple
Yes.
episodes because if it is going to
Stop.
be like
Fincher MCU, let's go.
well, what's his face, Spectre, what his name is, Batman's Marvel's Batman, then it could be cool detective stuff.
Stop
Yeah.
giving me nerd-ons.
But
Wow.
Fincher doing
help it.
Hannibal Lecter. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Anywho,
Keeps me up at night.
What did you think of Mindhunter out there, young
Let us know.
listeners?
young
you excited for
listeners,
season
old
3?
listeners, same age as us
Boys
listeners,
and girls.
Tell us about your
inside, outside that spectrum.
Tell us about your kink.
Yeah.
Or
What?
you know,
Yeah.
maybe
No, you could just tell us what you thought about Mindhunter.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
let's stick
good.
to that for now.
Let's stick with that. It's
You
safe.
How about you tell us just as much as you're comfortable with?
Yeah.
Or you can tell me.
Wow.
You can DM
Just
me if you're
DM
on,
Tom.
if
Oh
you're
my
on the
gosh.
Discord.
DM Tom with all the
Josh,
details.
save us with
Hell
the
yeah.
links.
Hell yeah.
Well, everybody at home, thank you so much for listening to these shenanigans.
Hell yeah.
That I'm surrounded by. Really, thank you so much for listening. Please share us with your friends, your family. If you are new to Nerd On, you can check us out. Nerdon.tv has all of the linky links to everything that we do. It has some articles, other podcasts, YouTube, Twitch. There's a lot.
A lot of
But
things.
check it out, nerdon.tv. Please stop by wherever you listen, especially Apple Podcasts, to rate and review us. That kind of stuff does help us
Please.
as we
Also,
grow.
Share
we
this-
just had our anniversary episodes.
Yes,
3
we
episodes. We did the Dark Knight trilogy, as directed by Christopher Nolan. So check those out.
And did you know that when it snows, my
Eyes become a light, and the light
that you shine can't be
seen.
Another
I
thing.
compare you to a kid. Yes.
Also, share this with your favorite murderers.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
No. I
Hey,
don't want them to
And tell
know.
them to turn themselves in.
Yes.
Yes.
I was
mainly
going
that
to
part,
say
though.
also this week a big thing happened. The Capeless Crusaders recently joined the Nerd On podcast family, and their episode was posted this week.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, lots to check out. We've got the Nerd On update that comes out on Fridays. The Capeless Crusaders are the third Monday of each month, and Trope Time is the first Monday of each month. But yeah, that's all the
But,
biz. The business. You know the drill. As always.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.